All right, so today I'm excited to be talking with Tracy Gunn. She is someone I've had the opportunity and privilege of working with for about a year. We met probably a little over a year ago, and I've gotten to know her really well and her business. I told Tracy this early on. One of the things that really stood out to me about her, I think in business in general, especially now in the online space, there's a lot of imitation going on. And to some degree, that's a good thing, right? Model what works. I talk about swipe files. I talk about gaining inspiration and curating ideas from what is already working, right? Let's not reinvent the wheel. Unfortunately, I think that some people take that too far and then they just go to pure copying. And that's okay. Listen, if it works, it works. But the bigger issue is actually doing a disservice to ourselves as we're not tapping into our own ability to create something better. And I think one of the things that I've just admired, and that I've told Tracy this from the beginning, is she's not an imitator, she's an innovator. And she really does exemplify that. She continues to innovate. And I think one of the things that's most impressed me about Tracy and I admire about her is the fact that when the going gets tough, I'm sure she has her time where she's like, oh, that's a bummer. She's upset, but she always shows up ready to find an answer, ready to get after it. And I think that's a hallmark of every great entrepreneur and anyone who's successful. So I'm excited to bring her on so we can chat a little bit. And I know there'll be some good info and some good gold nuggets coming out of here. So Tracy, thanks for taking the time.
Yay. Hi, I'm Tracy. I don't know if you want me to say what I do.
Yeah, dive in. Let's jump right in. So obviously, maybe give a quick intro, just kind of who you are, what you do, and what the business is all about.
Okay, so my name is Tracy Gunn. I was a homeschool mom, and I decided when they all went to school that I was going to open a store because I believe in me, and I just figured I'd figure it out. And so I opened my candy store 17 years ago. Now my babies have all grown up, gone on, moved on, and I am still here at the candy store owning the retail part, but we also during COVID, we had always had an online presence, but during COVID, it was time for like double duty. We had 2 stores full of Easter candy and we jumped online and we wound up doubling our business that year, which was pretty amazing. Although it helped to have a captive audience. And so now we're trying to figure out how to make that e-com piece work forever and not just when everyone's locked at home, not able to buy candy. So that's what I do.
Yeah. And Tracy, so I think a lot of people are trying to figure that out. I think we even see it at the biggest level with business where, you look at the digital companies that they took a snapshot in time and used that to project out into the future. And now, all these tech stocks are down. Companies, when you look at like Peloton, like all these companies that had a captive audience, like you said, had everyone at home, they took that. And I get it because they're trying to, maximize stock price and all that. But they were all very optimistic that, this was an anomaly that you had everyone locked in their home, not going out, and all the attention was focused on, a device, and you could obviously reach them. So I think a lot of people are going through this, and part of it is I don't know if you'd agree with this, but part of it's the strategy of like, how do we make it happen? But there's also like almost like an emotional component you have to deal with where you feel like, man, this was taking off. And then like, oh, what am I doing wrong? Or what's wrong with the business? Like there's nothing wrong. It's just people are out of their houses now and like living.
Exactly. I mean, when I first started working with you and I thought I broke something. It was working like crazy. We were doing, 100, 150 orders a week, and it was crazy gangbusters, and we were adding new things. It was going so great. And then all of a sudden it was like, wah, wah, like what happened? What did I do? Did I touch something? So I hired all these people to help me, to run ads. I thought, oh, well, ads are the answer. Let's dump more money. And I spent a lot of money on other people trying to figure things out because I didn't trust myself. I kind of, like you said, that emotional piece, like, I guess I'm not smart enough. I was able to do it during COVID, but now I can't. And then I was like, you know what, after months of spending way too much money and investing, tens of thousands of dollars in other people, I decided, you know what, I'm a safe bet because I'll show up, I'll try, I'm coachable, and I'll do the thing, right? And I'll outlast everybody else. So and I won't quit. And so I decided to double down on me and kind of came up with some things like you talked about, and just, yeah, exactly. Just figuring out what this looks like. But it took a while to get over the, I broke it. What did I do wrong?
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's interesting. You've mentioned it a few times already, just in the first few minutes, like betting on you, believing in you. Is that something, is that like a trait you've kind of always had? Is that something you've sort of had to develop?
No, I mean, I think, that
Because a lot of
doesn't
people
mean I don't,
is what I'm saying. A lot of people,
yeah.
they don't believe in themselves. They question themselves. They never get to the point where they actually are willing to make a bet on themselves and invest in themselves.
The thing is I'm pretty self-aware. And so even just as crazy, when I first started my business and people were like, it was a very bad time in my family and my ex was a 9/11. It was all kinds of craziness. And I named my store Life is Sweet because I figured if I said it enough, it would remind me that like things are good. It's going to be okay. And so even then people were like, are you crazy? Like, take some time. And you know what? I just thought I'm a make lemonade kind of girl. That's like a gut thing that always doesn't mean that I don't doubt or feel sad or cry sometimes. But that innate, like, I'm going to show up and do my best, and I'm pretty dang smart. So let's see what I can do. And so that I think is just God-given. Some people might say arrogant, but I don't. I just think it's being very self-aware, because, you know, when you're driven and you show up consistently and want to learn and want to do better, I think you're just inevitably going to do better. So yeah, so I mean, even from the beginning of like starting my store with no money and just figuring it out, like, I love that part. I love that part about business, is the figuring it out. Not that it doesn't get sad and frustrating after a long time of figuring.
Yeah. I'm glad you're bringing this up, because I think this comes up a lot, whether it's people asking, how do I stay motivated? How do I, you know, it seems like everyone else is motivated. I can't, you know, some people, they don't feel like getting up and getting after it again today. They just want to quit. And I tell people, and they have self-doubt and all this, I say, like, yeah, like everyone does. Like, even the people that you idolize, that you look up to, you think, wow, they're so successful. If I could just whatever, they're going through the exact same thing. They just get through it, and they build habits and routines, and they start to learn the process. Like, I know I've gotten to that point where I know this too shall pass. Like, I will push through this. I will figure out a way. And like you said, I always bet on me. Like, I believe in me, and maybe that comes off as arrogant. I don't think so either. I look at my childhood growing up. We went through a lot of adversity. We were homeless. We lived in a car, like, and I saw my parents like push through, and they fostered and like instilled that in me. And yeah, you go through hard times. You cry, you're upset, you can't believe this is happening to you, this isn't fair, whatever, right? But you just, you pick yourself up and you go. And I think that definitely shines through in you. Like, I've seen that trait now multiple times. And I think it's something that anyone listening to this, if they ever feel, you know, the motivation, it's like we all go through it, and you just have to push through. And like you said, bet on yourself. So.
But, well, nobody's coming to, I mean, you get one life, right? And so nobody is coming to rescue me, although sometimes I'd love somebody to come rescue me.
Just every once in a while.
just once. Is it okay? And then, but other
wouldn't
times,
hurt
like,
my ego if somebody saved me.
Well, and in that vein, you know, like, I've had so many ups and downs, and sometimes I think to myself, gosh, after 17 years, you should have it all figured out. Should be easy. You should never have to work. It should be millions of, like, it should be all the things, but it really shouldn't be necessary. Like, I got back from Funnel Hacking Live, and I had 3 people quit while I was gone. So I closed. I was sick when I got back, and then I closed. I got out before the hurricane, and I closed Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday nights all by myself. Because what was I going to do? I mean, like, that's the reality. This is not, now, that doesn't mean some days I don't wish I could, you know, fail, but we're in hard times. This is all hard. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of things. And in the end, It's up to me. And it's a choice. That's the other part. This is my choice, right? I don't have to do this. I could close. I could, right? I could liquidate them. I mean, I liquidated I had 2 restaurants too. So like, talk about,
I mean, that is another skill set that you have, right?
Yes,
is selling
right.
businesses and
Yep. And so
liquidating.
I liquidated one, I sold one, and figuring out systems. I love, like I said, I like to make lemonade and fix things. And so I created a business. I decided, I'll just have a restaurant. Sure, no problem. And I did it from scratch with no experience. I just love the challenge part. But my point is like when it was bad, or I was at 7 a.m. and I was cooking and I didn't want to be, in the end, it's always my choice. Like I'm choosing this, and I can make a different choice at any time. I love that freedom piece of.
That's the truth.
Right? It's free. I mean, even though you don't always feel free, you feel chained and stuck sometimes. But the bottom line is like, I got to choose this in this country in this time. I have all this opportunity, and I get to choose it or not. And I love that.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. I do go back to this a lot. It was something I heard, I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk say. He said, if you have the audacity to think that you could have freedom, set your own schedule, make your own way, pave your own path, do different than what everyone else does, not just go into a corporate job, work for 40 years,
right? Then
have a great life at retirement. If you have the audacity to think that you could do different than that, guess what? It's going to be hard. Like you're going to go through struggles. That's just part of the deal. And I think all of us as entrepreneurs, we value the freedom more than the joy of the freedom and what it brings than maybe the pain that we have to go through sometimes to get it, right? And that's right. The trade-off we're willing to make.
Yeah. The potential freedom often.
The potential, yeah, and just even the potential, exactly, because it's not guaranteed. Okay, so I want to talk about, because you had a retail location. I think this is really important because I think as you're talking, one thing I'm seeing is, you always are very you're good at thinking like what the customer wants, and you're good at putting a message out there. And even though you don't focus so much on like a beautiful design, your copy is always like on point, like what people want to hear. And I'm wondering, this leads to my question, is how has being a retail store helped you, do you think helped you on the online side? Given that you've been able to actually talk to real people.
Right. Well, I mean, so much of what we designed here, I read the E-Myth. Most people have. I know some people like, it's so basic. I'm like, it's so basic, but so good. Yeah. Like, do I want, and it was my first like 6 months or 8 months. And I was like the candy lady behind the counter. And I realized, do I want to be this person behind the counter all the time, forever? And the answer was absolutely no. And so I still wanted the experience that I was delivering. And so I set out, even way back when, I'm so thankful to the person who gave me that book, because it really made me start thinking, not just working up on the business or above the business, as Roland Fraser says, but the idea of setting up a system so that people have the same experience regardless of who's behind the counter. And so for me, years before I could hire, talking to people about, hearing all their stories about when I was a kid, I bought and like those thousands of conversations really helped us to figure out exactly how to greet every customer. Like it's a simple thing, but we, when you go to Starbucks and it's like I don't do Starbucks. It's complicated. I don't understand the names. I feel dumb there. So I don't go there. I don't really like the coffee either, but the whole point is I feel not smart there. So when at my store, which again, my candy store is a little overwhelming. There's a lot going on, and I don't want people to feel, I want them to have a little overwhelmed because it's a candy store. It's supposed to be fun, but I also want them to understand exactly what they should do. So we greet them and we explain that by telling them 9 out of 10 do exactly what I tell them to do every time. Like it is, because otherwise they come, they do a lap and they leave. And so I figured out that if we But that was by watching and experiencing customers, right? And experience what they went through and why didn't they buy and what did they not like candy? Like nobody goes into a candy store to not buy. Nobody. And so being able to speak to them. So same thing for my website, like they click through, whether I'm giving them free candy or not, they click through for a reason. Maybe it's just a look. Maybe it's just to see what they have, and they leave for a reason, and it's figuring out those pieces. So yes, 100%. Sorry, I like to talk. 100% retail has helped me to understand my people and candy lovers. And people are like, oh, well, kids love candy. I'm like, it's not kids. Kids are not plunking down, $40 when they come here. It's not a kid.
Yeah.
They are dumping their pennies on the counter, which is fine. But it's the mom, it's the grandma, it's the friend who's like, let me bring you to my candy store. We have one in our town. Yeah, that kind of thing. Those are the people who are bringing the money and bringing friends to spend money. And so by having all this time and FaceTime with them, and now like when I'm in the store and closing, they're like, oh, you're here. And I'm like, yeah, I'm here. And I'm sad, but they're so happy because I'm here. So anyway, I mean, that's a very long.
So
yes.
How would you say then? And I want to transition here into some of the specifics on the online side and what you've done and some of the things that have worked and continue to work and things you're trying to refine. Yeah. But do you have, kind of put you on the spot here, sorry. Yeah. Do you have specific examples of on the online side that you took that knowledge from the retail side and said, oh, I know this is what we should do. I know this is how we should communicate. Like, so tactically,
my big thing, like, okay. So when I was talking a little bit about how all of a sudden things stopped working, and I was like, and I hired all these people. So while they were working on conversion ads for me and trying to get people to buy, I mean, it was a very simple offer all year. It was like, hey, buy my candy box. And what makes us special is we have 350 jars. You can mix and match, make your own custom candy box or bag like you were in the store. So we knew that would work online. That's one example. But when that stopped converting at a lower rate, right, it was $4 a conversion when we started, ended at like 30 something, which not sustainable for us. Yeah. So while people were working, I still was betting on me and what I know. And one thing we had always done in our town was we did a birthday club. And so we collected, this is my easy way to get everyone's email. I had a chart on the counter. We've been doing it for 16 years, and they get free candy for their birthday. So mom would sign up, and she'd sign up 8 of her kids or however many. And then, so we'd send them a thing for their birthday and they'd bring them. But so they get a free quarter pound in the store, because they could pick, or they get a cupcake or ice cream. Okay. But then mom is bringing the other kids. And then mom is also getting something for dad or for herself. And so what was a free $3 or $4 bag of candy now nets me, a $30 order because she brought everybody. So I was like, I wonder if there's a way to get people into my world in the same way. So that's what we did online. And it really worked like crazy. What doesn't always work is the delivery, right? So we get, I think we've talked about it before, like historically for the last year, we have 80,000 people signed up plus for our birthday club for free candy for your birthday, right? That's the hook. And so 80,000 plus are on my email list with the promise of free candy. Now, because they have to pay shipping, it's a little different. They're welcome to come here. Plenty of people do travel to come visit us and see candy headquarters. But that was a thing that worked local that we shifted and tried online. Number one, as an easier way to get people into our world to know about us, but for inexpensive, 10 cents a lead. You can't really argue with
amazing.
That. So what we're still kind of working the kinks out, we've tried a bunch of different things, is trying to make that next step a little bit easier transition, getting them to open our email. So all those pieces that are always changing and,
But the funnel, the funnel right now, and I just want to
go ahead.
Kind of talk through it, because I think this would help people, because this is a great idea and it's something people can definitely try if it fits their product line. So the ad would go straight to get a free whatever of candy, right? Free bag, free sample. Is that
on your birthday? So
on
not
your
even
birthday?
right now,
Okay.
not it. And this is like people are signing up, like, 7 months in advance.
Got it. So on your birthday, but you're signing up now and you're collecting the email now, and they'll receive instructions how to redeem their candy on their birthday.
Correct.
And then after, so they opt in, that's the lead magnet, basically, is the free candy on your birthday.
Yeah.
But then the next page in the funnel is an offer.
Yeah. So, well, we've played with a bunch of different ways. So we started just before I built my first funnel, we just had a lead and we were getting them like crazy. So we were like, okay, well, maybe we should make them an offer. And we played with a lot of different ones. We played with like our candy of the month bag. We played where they got to choose. We played with like 50% off your first purchase. So we did the bulk of what we did was the last year was that we did a candy collection bag and we made them a free plus shipping offer. And that worked for like 0.5% up to 1.5%. And it would vary. Some weeks we get nothing, others we do really well. But it was a self-liquidating offer just to get them to purchase and to be a buyer instead of just a subscriber.
And just so people know, self-liquidating in that you acquired a customer at break even and you were able to get a buyer on your list. You didn't make any money, but they paid average order value and average order profit covered the cost of acquiring them through the ad.
Correct. So for all the, the 98 that didn't buy, we were getting those people for free, 10 cents each or whatever. Yeah. So we had because it was such a low acquisition cost for the lead, we didn't have to sell a lot to cover the cost, if that makes sense. But we're also not necessarily making big profits, but it's an opportunity to get some product in their hand.
Yep.
And so that's kind of, we're playing with, and we've struggled with, email and email opens. And Brian, you and I have talked about this, being in spam and, sorry. I'm just on a podcast. Nope, not until 11:30. Sorry. And so we, so like getting out of spam and like raising and figuring out our email sequence. And again, I'm always, like you said, I'm always like trying to, like, I'm this close. Have you seen that comic where the guy's like digging the tunnel and he's this far? This is what keeps me not quitting. Is like, I know myself enough to know that when I finally say, that's it, I'm done, it'll be because, and I'll be that.
And then the next guy comes and he's like,
know.
Think,
exactly.
So,
which
they find the vein of gold of the oil.
I know. And then, I actually, I feel like sometimes it's really helpful to get like little inspirations so I made some changes and I had like 70 orders waiting for me last week. And I was like, holy mackerel. And which means like it's working. We got a whole bunch of them. And then this week, nothing. So I was like, it's like life on e-com. I'm like, you never know. So anyway, but yeah, that's like one of the things that I took for retail and I tweaked. Now, it felt validating I went to a day with Dan Kennedy. He talked about any kind of birthday loyalty things, right? So anything that will work in the store will work online. And I felt like Dan Kennedy says I'm right. So I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. So, no, and I mean, you've proven it. I mean, I think the way that as you're talking, and I've thought of this before, what you've done is, if you think about like a combination in a lock, or if you've ever seen a cross section of what it looks like when a key goes into a lock. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've seen it. So there's these pins, and the reason a key is like jagged like that is the way it enters, it like unlocks pins. As it starts to go in, it unlocks the pins. So as you start to put the key in, it's unlocking pins in the right order because of the grooves on the key. Mm-hmm. So when I think about your funnel, it's like, that's sort of the funnel. That's sort of the process. You run the ad, you acquired the customer, you got the email, you self-liquidated. And it's like, there's just the last pin for you to crack the code on. And not saying that you haven't had some results, but like you said, 70 orders, then no orders, then 50, then none. I think it doesn't mean that the rest of the key doesn't work, right? Like it's
No.
just unlocking that last
Mhm.
pin, and now you can turn the lock and open the door to your vein of
I'm
gold,
hopeful. I'm hopeful. Some days I just get grumpy, but I'm hopeful like at some point, we've talked about this, like you learned how to make fire. Now what are you going to do with it? It's like, what am I going to cook? Like I got to figure out what I'm cooking and what's going to make the most sense and all that. But like, again, I was very thankful you and Allison Prince had shared one day, because I was like ready just to turn it off. I was so mad. I was like, we're not getting orders. And they're like, wait a minute, what? And I'm like, what? And they're like, you're getting leads for 10 cents. And I'm like, yeah. So like, what do you do?
Isn't everybody?
Well, that's exactly how I felt. And then I was like, oh my, wow. Okay. I did something cool. All right. All right. I'll rest, not rest
going
on my laurels, but I'll take it. I needed it. So
yeah,
still playing with it.
So I want to, I do want to ask, I'm always curious about this because it's something that I think about for myself all the time. And I definitely ask people in my life that have been very successful. I mean, I was just out to dinner last night with two buddies. One of them, John and Joe, and John is ridiculously successful. He has a G5, $20 million jet parked at Raleigh International Airport. He's got, one of the fastest growing, he's in real estate, one of the fastest growing companies in the country. I mean, guy's worth $50-60 million. I mean, it's just, he's done extremely well. And I ask, like, I want to know, like, what motivates him at this point, right? Like, what is it that keeps him hungry? Because, I mean, all his basic needs were met a long time ago, right? And even his luxury needs were met a long time ago.
Right.
So it's something I think about myself is how do you stay hungry and driven, happy, but still hungry? So I guess for you, what do you think is that drive? Like, what is it that keeps you pushing, even when things are not encouraging or not what you want?
I mean, what other choices do you have? Right. I mean, that's like,
so what else are you going to do?
Well, because 17 years, my kids worked for me. Right. And so 2 of them I fired multiple times. 1 of them I did not. But anyway, they all work for me. But now they know what this is. They know they've missed Christmas. They've missed, like they get the sacrifice. They get how hard it is, it's like, people are like, oh, it must be so fun to own a candy store. Sure. I mean, it is. People are happy. It's happy retail, but it's still work. And it's still like, there's still grumpy parts and it's not all fun. So my kids are like, Mom, just get a job. Like, you don't need to do this anymore. Because I don't have retire. I started over in my 40s, right? I stopped being a homeschool mom and then, decided to like, oh, I'll just have a business or 4. And so I just, whatever. And so I'm just driven in general. So I love the book Driven because it made me feel not so crazy. And number 2, like, I just think everything is possible and I want a piece of everything. I want to do everything. I want to learn everything. I want to try everything. So that keeps me going. But the flip side of that is that it also helps. It's hard for me to let things go. Like when it's time. So my restaurant, I had a lease negotiation that they wanted to control my hours. I was not interested in that. Like we talked about freedom. That's not why I'm in business. So I had this successful business that I just liquidated because a landlord, decided they knew better than me, our local city. Anyway, but so that was hard for me. And if they hadn't pushed at me, I probably would still own the restaurant because it's hard for me to like give up on it. Right. Yeah. And so for me, I think the drive is the partial, but the other part is recognizing maybe when a different choice would be better. Sometimes I stay in things way too long or longer than maybe I should. Same with staff. I've kept staff way too long because I believe in the possibility of them, not the reality. So anyway, but me, I just want, and again, I'm not a material kind. I mean, I want a beach house, trust me. But I have all my needs met. Like I'm not destitute. I've been not right now. And I know no matter what, as long as I have my health and my brain, I'm going to be fine regardless. So that makes me roll the dice and try. right? And I'm not so devastated. Listen, I don't love to lose and I hate not winning, but it's not the end of the world because that just means it was a lesson and the next thing, you know.
Would you say Tracy, would you say you are a competitive person?
Ooh, yeah. I hate to
Yeah.
lose. I hate,
Yeah.
and
Would you
mostly
say
I'm
that
competing myself.
do you, I was just having this conversation with someone. That's why I'm asking. Would
Yeah.
you say that it doesn't have to be one or the other. I'm just wondering, would you say that you hate losing more than you like winning?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was just talking to somebody about this. Like, so I'm ultra competitive. My buddy Chris is ultra competitive. My buddy Tony is ultra competitive. John, the guy I was talking about last night, ultra competitive. And I look at Russell, ultra competitive.
Yeah.
I look at the people I surround myself with in my life. We're all ultra competitive, right? And I've had this conversation and unanimously everyone agrees. When they think about it, they're like, yeah, like losing hurts me more than the joy
hurts.
when I win.
Yes. It's like feeling dumb, like in a situation. Like it's like, I should have done, I should have. Yeah, I don't like to, even at Yahtzee, I don't like to lose. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh man, board games. And it's funny because my mom was really competitive. So whenever even as a kid, this is like, it would be like fights would break out, like arguments.
Well,
Over
my
like
kids,
poker or whatever.
My kids, we'd be homeschooling and like we'd be playing Scrabble or something, and they'd be like, my mother-in-law would be like, "Let them win." I'm like, "How will they learn?
How will they learn?
They will someday. They will trounce me and feel amazing, but until then, I will be winning because I just felt like
that's awesome.
I need to be that example."
But then it'll
for
make
them.
the victory so much sweeter because if they actually beat you, they know like, whoa, I won.
Yes.
And then
I'm not
they'll
giving it.
that.
I'm not giving. Although I have grandkids now, I might let them win just because I'm grandma. It's not my job.
I've heard everyone gets a little softer with the grandkids.
Well, it's not my job to teach them. I could just be fun Grammy. So
that's exactly. Okay, so I'm wondering, just to kind of start wrapping up, what would be, I mean, you've transitioned from all these other businesses, retail, now to e-commerce. You've been in e-commerce for a little bit now. What would be, if someone's listening to this, they're thinking about starting an e-commerce business, what would be your number one piece of advice of do this, and one piece of advice, avoid this? So do this and then invert the question, what to avoid. Number one.
Okay. So I'm just going to use my own example. This, I think, has made my life harder. Just is that I've tried to retrofit what I have in retail online.
Okay.
Okay. And so I think it makes it more complicated. If I picked one thing that I loved and was trying to sell that, very narrow focus, very niche, very clear, as opposed to trying to meld the e-com and retail. So if you have a retail and you do need an online presence, you want to have everything on there, that's fine. But if you're really going to go after something, I think really narrowing down. Like I hear about these people who like have distributors who like pack and ship all their boxes. And I'm like, that is impossible with the things I sell.
Yeah.
Unless I really niche down and pick like a thing, right? Or a candy of the month package, or it's just been, for me, that's been really difficult trying to walk in two lanes, if that makes sense. So for me, I would say, don't do that. Don't do all the things, to pick some part, and then you could always expand on it. For me, that ship already had sailed, so it's kind of hard to put the horse back in the barn. It's already there. So, and so that, I don't know if that's a don't or a do. Which do you think it is?
I mean, it's interesting because they can go both ways. So we'll say that as a don't. So what would be your number one advice?
Don't do that. Do try. Like there are opportunities everywhere. So I went to breakfast or lunch with my husband's sister and his daughter, and she was wearing something. And I was like, oh, I could sell that. And she was like, what? And she was wearing this cute sweatshirt. I'm not giving too much away because it's my idea. But anyway, I was like taking pictures of her. I was like, pull your jacket. I want to see. And I was like, I'm not in clothing, but I was like, I love that. If I feel, and I'm not really a shopper, if I would buy that, oh, it was a good thing.
Yeah.
So just keep your eyeballs open because there's stuff everywhere. And that's one of the things that I love about you and Allison just teaching us that like it could be anything. Palm fronds, it could be pine cones. My neighbors used to sell acorns because we live in New Hampshire. Like they would go in their yard and pick up acorns and sell them on Etsy. You can sell anything.
Yeah.
If like if there's a niche, right? And so I just think that we live in such a time with such opportunity that, you know, yes, on one hand, like ads are hard and all the things are hard, but at the same time, it's so easy for something to work, right? Like it's not hard to build a website. It's not hard to start a Shopify. It's not, these are not hard things. Well, I mean, I don't think they're hard. I think anybody could have an e-com store and it could blow up. Like
Yeah, and
that.
I think it's a huge, I think it's a huge thing to point out that I've seen, I've seen it with experienced sellers and new sellers, where new sellers struggle to find the perfect product, or they try a product, it doesn't work, and they're like, e-commerce doesn't work, or they don't work, they're not good enough. And the beauty of this is because it is easy, the technology's made it so easy. Pick a new product, pick a new product. People are spending. You just got to find the thing. And what I've also seen on the flip side, even with experienced sellers, I've had to work with clients where this has happened, where they've got something, it's kicking butt. I mean, it's things doing amazing. And for whatever reason, because of competition, because of price war, you know, pushing down margin, whatever it is, people just lose interest in the product. They sort of get completely discouraged. They kind of close up shop, and it's like, no, you have all this experience. You've got capital now to reinvest, find another product. Like you have to reinvent yourself, reinvent your brand. And that's the beauty of this business, is that there's always something. Some people are buying something.
They are. And crazy things. I mean, and you know, I mean, I bought that like dentist thing with the light, with like the little vibrating. I was like, it was like $100. I'm like, what was I thinking? I'm definitely an emotional buyer. Like if you catch me, right? I'm like, oh, okay, here's all my money.
That's funny.
If I have to think about it, it's probably not going to happen. So
yeah, that's right. Impulse buy.
Yeah.
So all right, Tracy, that was awesome. I appreciate it. There was just, again, great stuff. I appreciate you coming on, because I think this is a very unique perspective in that you have the retail background. And it's been really awesome to see kind of your journey. And I know you're just getting started. So what are you working on, I guess, right now that you're most excited about? And if people want to find out more about you, where can they go?
Cool. So I'm really excited about, so one of the things, I don't know if you could tell I get excited about things, is that I love business. I love building, like I am like definitely a 0 to 1 kind of gal. Like get me in there, I will make it all happen. And then it's the long game that's harder for me. But I also love the selling part, right? So that's what I've been focusing on. I have a partner. Like the
actual selling of
business. The selling, well, like not only that, but making it sellable. Because, you know, we all have businesses, doesn't mean they're ready to sell. Like this one right now, not ready to sell, because I had a partner that was earning, it's just not ready right now. It's too many pieces got broken in the transition of having somebody earn in that I need to fix them before I can do that if I want to. So I'm like, so now I'm like, talking a little bit about my experience. Not that I'm an expert in any way, shape, or form, but I had 4 businesses and I found a buyer for one. I liquidated one. I had an earn-in that didn't work out, but I still did an earn-in. So like there's so many ways to exit if you want to move on to something, because I think it's really important to have business continue. You know, our small businesses are engine in our country, and if they all just start disappearing, we're in trouble. So this is my new passion project that I'm talking about, but also still going through the pain and the joy of retail / e-com and figuring out the next piece that works, or the next thing, and just staying excited and ahead of it. Because who knows what the next couple of years are going to bring? Like, we don't know. We have, you know, Dan Kennedy said the next 2 to 5 are going to be terrible. I was like, don't say that.
Come on, man.
Come on, where's the optimism? Right. So, I mean, and it could be terrible, but people like candy in recession. So I'm holding on. So, yeah. So, I mean, that's all. You can find me, TracyKeatingGunn.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm everywhere.
Awesome.
And I'm also known as the Candy Lady kind of everywhere. So
The Candy Lady. Life is sweet.
lifeissweetcandystore.com is my candy store. If you'd like to join the birthday club, you can do it for free.
Yeah. They could check it out, see what that
Yeah,
funnel looks like. So, all right, Tracy, thank
you
you so much. Have an amazing rest of your day. And everyone listening, if you got at least one actionable item from this, take action, have a bias towards action, and keep iterating, and you'll figure it out. So, all right, I'll talk to you soon. Okay.